Welcome to Ogden, Utah, home of one of the most scenic places to chase trains. Okay, technically it's just outside of Ogden, Utah, in Echo and Weber canyons. This line, also known as the Wasatch Grade, is part of Union Pacific's original transcontinental main line. And while it's not the busiest train watching place in the world, it more than makes up for that with all the opportunities for chasing and pacing, and of course its stunning scenery. The logical place to begin an exploration of this route is Ogden, Utah. Right here, we're just outside of the main yard there, on the south side of the yard. This train we're seeing has just come down the canyons and is entering the yard. And this is a good spot to wait for a train to come out of the yard, so you can chase it up the canyon. Ogden is also home to the Depot Museum, which has a variety of preserved locomotives and rolling stock, including one of only 2 preserved Union Pacific gas turbine locomotives. The other one is at the Illinois Railway Museum, and these turbines primarily ran here on the Wasatch Grade. Ah, here comes a train out of the yard now. Let's head up the canyon after it. Okay, technically this one is a switcher working in the yard, but it's the only footage I have of a train coming out of the yard. That is something to be careful of, though. Don't start heading up the canyon just because there's a train coming out. There's a decent chance it's just a switching move for headroom, especially if you see a lot of Jeep 15s or SD40s on the head end. It's probably just a yard job.
Whether this is heading up or a yard job, this is an interesting combination of power.
It is.
Okay, let's hop back onto the interstate and get ahead of the train. The next good spot to see the train pass, if you can get far enough ahead of it, is in the town of Uinta, a suburb of Ogden. Be aware that the upbound track and the downbound track are separated by a block or 2 in this area. So make sure you're going to the right one. Oh, the weather is so much better all of a sudden. On the right-hand side of the screen, that's the mouth of Weber Canyon, where the train is headed. If the train's not moving too quickly, then we should be able to get back on the interstate and catch up with it again by the time we get to the first rest stop, just a little ways up into the canyon. If we hurry. It's usually pretty tight here. If you go straight from the Ogden Yard to the rest stop without this stop in Uinta, you may be able to have a chance to use the restroom at this rest stop, which is worth doing since there won't be many opportunities. The road and the rail are pretty parallel here as you go through the canyon, including the famous Devil's Gate portion of it with a bridge. If you don't manage to catch up with the train by the time you reach the rest stop, not to worry. The road and the rails stay pretty parallel from here. So you'll have a chance to get well ahead of the train. If there's not much traffic, you might be able to pace it, but the speed limit on the highway is quite a bit higher than the speed limit on the tracks. So it's better to get ahead in this section and get up to Peterson, where we have a bridge crossing over the tracks, right near the exit and the entrance. I don't actually have any footage from this location because it's often pretty tight and there isn't usually time to set up a camera or even pull the phone out and get the camera rolling as the train arrives. So it's back on the highway to continue pacing or catching up on the way to Morgan. That's where this shot is from, on the highway approaching Morgan.
Did I tell you about the military train at the Horseshoe Curve camera recently?
No, but there is a center sighting here. And my question is he on it?
I believe he may be.
There's usually enough distance between Peterson and Morgan to get well ahead of the train, so you can exit the highway at Morgan and come right into town to the old depot, which gives a very nice view of the tracks and is a great place to see the train go by, or get a nice shot of it like this. Morgan is also a good place to get a bite to eat if it's that time of day. If your train is moving slowly, or if you just missed it at Morgan, the next exit also provides a pretty good opportunity. You have a very long view both up and down the canyon from there. This can also be a good place to hang out while you're waiting for a train to come from either direction. Since you have such a long view, you'll have warning when something is coming either way. The next good spot to catch a train is a rather famous place, Taggart's. Home of a tunnel through a ridge, immediately followed by a bridge. It's a very recognizable place in new and old pictures. Though if the weather is iffy like this, you may not be able to get there. If the road is icy, don't try. Just get a shot like this from just at the exit. If the road is in decent shape, you can drive down to the viewpoint for the bridge, which is also a popular fishing spot. You can also stop at the Taggart's Grill for, I'm told, some fantastic carrot cake, among other things. Since we didn't hop in the car and take off the moment the locomotives passed us, we've pretty much missed our chance to catch the train at Croydon, the next stop. So let's enjoy watching the rest of this train pass before we move on to there. Since Croydon is just around the corner, and you have to backtrack to get out of Taggart's, it's pretty much impossible to catch a train at both, unless it's moving really slowly, or unless it's planning to stop and serve the concrete plant, which has a spur there. Croydon is also home to the famous rock formation Devil's Slide. If you do get to Croydon ahead of the train, there are a couple good places you can watch from. There's the pedestrian bridge over the river, which, yes, is legal to walk onto, which is parallel to the concrete plant spur and provides a good view of the mainline bridge. It takes a minute to get to, though. If you're in more of a hurry, you can just go onto the mound that's next to the road. That's where I got this shot of a local freight serving the concrete plant.
Remember Dimitri not wanting to come because of the cold?
I think he'll be very glad he didn't come. Especially that coupled with climbing this hill at elevation. I suppose the fact that this turned out to be a local would also explain why we have the older engines on it. Yeah, they're taking it really slow now, unless they're about to get onto a...
Oh yeah, the mound also gives a great view down the canyon. And this is what the view is like from that pedestrian bridge. Leaving Croydon, it's back to paralleling the track. You'll pass the 1,000-mile tree, marking the 1,000 miles of track laid from Omaha during the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. Due to some alignment changes, it's not quite 1,000 anymore, but close enough. And a couple miles beyond that, you'll reach Hennifer, where the pacing game can really begin. You can get off the highway and onto the Old Road. It's Old Highway 30, Echo Road, Main Street. It has more than one name. And you can follow it much of the way continuing up Echo Canyon. We're going to make a quick stop at Echo itself, after these few shots of pacing the train to it.
You remember me telling you about center sightings?
Yes. Rather handy. You can get in from either end.
Yeah. Andy can use it as a crossover.
Mm-hmm.
And here's one right here, which is why I mentioned it.
Mm-hmm. I did note that.
I suppose Catherine would not be impressed if we rolled down the window for the full sound effect. It's not just the noise, it's the airflow into your face.
I'll be alright for a minute or two.
You can see Echo, the beginning of Echo Canyon, up ahead, right now.
wasn't going to do it for your sake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's got a green, but he is slowing down.
But it definitely is just chilling.
Which would imply some reason he needs to stop despite the green, which would imply either some issue with him or some issue up ahead of him.
Yeah. If he is choosing to stop here and blocks that crossing to do so, the locals are not going to be amused.
No.
And this is Echo, where the trains come around a sharp curve out of Echo Canyon. In the next shot, we'll actually pace a train, a downhill train, around that curve.
Ooh, it's catching the clouds really nicely, too. I think they look even better on the camera than they do in real life, which is a bit surprising. Vultures circling up there.
Over the Union Pacific. Great. That's just great.
I was thinking circling over the center siding, since it's dead.
From Echo, you can pretty much just follow the tracks via the old road all the way up most of the canyon. You'll pass the famous rest area, where I'm sure you've seen pictures or videos of trains before. And then you'll pass a spot with a really nice S-curve. I've been fortunate enough to get footage of trains from both locations, as well as some pacing up and down that road. And this is the spectacular view from that rest area. Let's enjoy this panoramic shot of a train passing by below.
You know, this wouldn't be a bad place to catch an eastbound steam train.
That's true.
There's very little traffic on the old road, but you do need to keep your eyes on it instead of just on the trains. Not just for other traffic, but also because of occasional boulders on the road.
And the boulder.
If you hit one of those, you might damage your car, maybe even losing a hubcap, as a random example. Definitely random. Anyway, this is that great S-curve I was talking about. I like to call it Stimpson curve, after noted railroad videographer Ed Stimpson. If you've seen Pentrex's Turbines of the Wasatch, you've probably seen a shot of a Union Pacific gas turbine coming through this very same curve. This was one of his favorite places to shoot films of turbines. He also provided footage for Pentrex's Milwaukee Road combo, about the Milwaukee Road's route through the Rocky Mountains of Idaho and Montana.
Ha!
There he is. Beautiful.
Yes.
Perfect.
And here's a shot of pacing, starting in a fairly similar spot, and chasing a train all the way down past the rest stop, basically to Echo. It's always fun and really cool to get to pace a train for a long distance like this, especially in such gorgeous scenery. Enjoy!
Part of the reason this road is much more up and down is they may have piled a lot of dirt here when building the railroad grade.
Maybe. There's the rest area. You can see a cover of a thing and a guy up on top of the hill. Wave at him. He's shooting us. I was mostly kidding. He's definitely shooting this, though. Green. He is not crossing over.
In that case, they better have got that track out of the way.
Yep. And undone any damage, and...
If not, we're in for a show, and not a good one. That was a flash of lightning straight ahead.
You've got your camera rolling, right?
Yep. Pretty sure we caught it.
Oh, I meant if the show happens.
Yeah. And then I can give my video to the UP investigators and show them your signal was green. Can't blame the engineer. Though if we're going with our earlier assumption of crediting UP with some amount of competence, They presumably did indeed get things clear.
Presumably. Probably before the other guy went.
Yeah, otherwise we definitely wouldn't be getting a green here.
Yeah, because stuff would be spilled all over the landscape.
There would be a pile of train.
Yeah, okay, he's shutting it off a little bit for the curve. Which is good. Because I do not choose to have your video document evidence of me running the stop sign.
Yeah, that would be not the greatest thing to document.
As you continue chasing up along the old road, you eventually reach a point where the road reconnects into the interstate, and you don't really have much choice but to go with it. The two tracks are grade separated at this point, but you can still follow them fairly well on the highway. Up to a point, at least. You eventually reach this point where the tracks kind of peel off and take a different route up than the interstate does. But there's this spot right by an exit, where you have a good view looking up the tracks, so you can really see if something is coming from either direction, really. Here's a shot of chasing a train downhill along that section. The train is on the lower of the two tracks.
And we're even on the sunny side.
If you see what looks like an embankment between the two tracks, that's where the road used to run. Just imagine chasing trains from that road in the days of big boys.
So then I don't have to worry about my timing for a photo. I can worry about it when I'm not in the moment. Looks like more Thai cars parked up there. They must be going to do some tire replacement out here pretty soon, when the ties are no longer frozen to the ground.
Okay. We now have a choice. Or we will very soon have a choice.
Yes.
By the way, at this point, the old highway was between the two tracks.
Ooh.
You see it there?
Yeah.
That little grade?
Yeah, I see.
That must have been something with steam engines up and down.
Yeah. To be caught in the middle of a meet there.
Anyway,
After several miles, the tracks in the interstate come back together at the summit, which is called Wasatch, appropriately. Interestingly, it's spelled with an H, which the regular spelling of the Wasatch Mountains is not. There's still an old water tower standing here. Just past Wasatch is Evanston, Wyoming, which is usually a pretty good spot to end the chase and wait for something else to head down the hill. While you're in Evanston, that's a good time to find some food and a restroom, and perhaps even to hang out at the old roundhouse, which is more restored every time I'm there. You also might catch some activity with switching at the Union Tank Car Company. Just southeast of the roundhouse is the old depot, which is also fairly restored and is a good place to see trains from. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this virtual tour of the Wasatch Grade. I definitely recommend seeing it yourself if you ever get the opportunity. If you'd like to see more videos like this, you know what to do to make sure you see more videos from this channel. Enjoy, and thanks for watching.
you know, this wouldn't be a bad place to catch an eastbound steam